Let me talk about one simple case which I think there was a direct assistance by the lawyers involved, and that was of a young woman who was, she was 8 months pregnant, and she hadn't told anyone. She hadn't told the United Nations, she hadn't told the state authorities, she hadn't even been to a doctor. And she came to our office one day and she said, "What do I do?" And this isn't a legal question, but because she had the trust and the faith in the lawyers, she came to us. And so we contacted the United Nations, and we were able to make sure that she got full maternity care. And then she went along and had a beautiful baby girl. And that's where our position and our influence can actually help people who don't know how to go through the process.
We had one African refugee approach us, and he had been rejected at first instance by UNHCR. He didn't have any identity documents. And even if he did have identity documents, UNHCR already told us that birth certificates from this country were not, they're manufactured in Hong Kong. They're not legitimate. So we basically had to take the testimony, refute all the points of UNHCR, explain why he didn't know the geography. We were able to do a privacy data ordinance request with the Hong Kong immigration and get his medical records to show that he had seen a psychologist or was, subject to psychiatric care while he was in detention. And then we also had him see a psychologist who was able to corroborate the trauma that he'd suffered and speak to that. So I don't think that he would have been able to have reversed UNHCR's results on his own, but with our resources and our ability to identify the issues and present his case, he's now recognized as a refugee and awaiting resettlement.
A friend called me because he's representing this refugee, and the judge already passed a sentence of weeping. And he called me, "Vadia, can you please help me? The judge just imposed the sentence of weeping on this refugee. I need to set aside this sentence. What can I do?" So I know about a case that the judge decides that refugee cannot be whipped because of their circumstances. The definition of refugee and the international obligation that we have to protect them. And I was like, okay, I have this case. Okay, I'll just pass it to him, and he managed to set aside the sentence of whipping. So for me, wow, that little thing makes a difference.
But the cases that I remember when I think of how I made a difference as a lawyer representing refugees are really the cases I lost. The cases where I struggled with the refugee, where I explained to him the problems in the case, the difficulties in the system, and I accompanied him, and I suffered with him in a small way at least the various defeats. Sure, as a lawyer, I didn't win the case. I didn't make a difference in the sense that we won the application that we were making, but the impact of my willingness to commit to him or to her and to be with him or her until the very end of the system, I think made a phenomenal difference in the refugee's life.
Look for the people that are doing it. Meet them, find out how they do it and how they are motivated. And maybe you can do some volunteering at a local law firm for a little bit who's doing refugee work. Maybe you can reach out to other organisations online, find out how they are getting their volunteers, and maybe you can spend 3 months or 6 months somewhere doing the work, because once you start doing it, you're hooked. You can't get away from it.
And above all, meet a refugee. Talk to them about their problems. Talk to them about the struggles they face with the legal system that any lawyer knows an awful lot more about than a refugee does. And then make your decision.